All right, so you know how sometimes learning English can feel like it's all about hitting the books and drilling grammar rules?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it does, right?
Yeah, totally. But we're doing something completely different today. We're taking a deep dive into how English is actually spoken out in the wild. Like real, natural conversations that just flow.
Right, exactly. We're going to show you how those everyday chats you have, those seemingly simple exchanges, are actually gold mines for picking up English naturally and becoming more confident, too.
Exactly. Think about it. When you're out and about chatting with friends or colleagues, you don't really stop to think about verb tenses, do you?
Definitely not.
It's just natural,
Yeah.
right? So today, we're all about tapping into that natural rhythm of the language.
Absolutely. And we've got some fantastic examples that illustrate how it works. We're going to break down some super useful phrases and even walk you through a real-life scenario, like ordering food at a restaurant. And a bit later on, we'll give you a chance to try it all out yourself.
Absolutely. This is about learning by doing. So are you ready to dive in?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so our source material kicks off with a pretty relaxed conversation, the kind you might have with a friend, just catching up.
Yeah, it's all about easing into the flow of English, much like you do in a real chat. You're not jumping straight into some complex topic or a formal discussion. It's about getting comfortable with the natural back and forth.
And in this particular example, they're talking about something really simple. It starts with a bit of small talk about the week, and then one person mentions trying a new caramel latte at a cafe. Sounds pretty mundane, right?
Right.
But hold on, because it's a great example of how even these everyday interactions are packed with authentic English. It's the kind of language you hear all the time, but might not necessarily learn in a textbook.
Exactly. And what's interesting here is how this simple shared experience, trying new coffee, becomes a starting point for further conversation.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, did you like it? Was it too sweet? What kind of coffee do you usually go for? And bam, you've got a conversation flowing naturally. Oh, totally. And did you notice it actually asks you, the listener, if you enjoy coffee? That little invitation to reflect on the topic, to connect it to your own preferences, that's classic conversational English. It draws you in.
Right. And it makes you realize how many of these little opportunities we encounter every day, even if we don't always notice them. These are mini lessons in real English happening all around us.
Okay, so we've had our warm-up chat. Now let's shift gears to something a little more practical. Our source material moves on to a scenario that almost everyone faces: ordering food at a restaurant.
Ah, the classic restaurant scenario. This is gold, especially if you're traveling or find yourself in a situation where you need to use English to get what you want to eat.
Totally. And it begins, again, with a casual exchange about eating out in general. Do you enjoy going to restaurants? What do you tend to order? Do you ever ask for recommendations? These are all questions you might genuinely hear or ask in real life. And the examples they use in the dialogue felt so relatable. There's mention of ordering pasta or pizza at an Italian place, which is a pretty safe bet in most restaurants.
I mean, who doesn't love a good pizza?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they even talk about spaghetti carbonara, my personal favorite, by the way.
Oh, nice choice.
It just shows how conversations naturally move from those general preferences, like, yeah, I enjoy Italian food, to more specific details, like, I always go for the carbonara. It adds that personal touch.
It does, yeah.
And they even throw in those key phrases for asking for recommendations. What do you recommend? Or what's your most popular dish? This is super useful because sometimes the menu can be a bit overwhelming, right? Especially if it's in another language.
Oh, yeah. Especially when there are all those dishes you've never even heard of.
So, asking for a recommendation can be a real lifesaver. And it also shows that you're open to trying something new, which is always a good thing.
So thinking about why this approach works so well, I think it's because you're seeing the language in action within a context you already understand. It's not just abstract vocabulary or grammar rules. It's language serving a purpose, which makes it stick with you.
Right. It makes so much sense.
Yeah.
So we've eased in with some chat. We set the scene. Now the source gets to the really practical stuff. The phrases and vocabulary you need to actually order food. This is where the real magic happens.
Absolutely. This is about equipping you with the tools you need to navigate that restaurant interaction smoothly and confidently. And the source doesn't disappoint. It gives you a list of essential phrases like, can I see the menu, please? I'd like a cheeseburger, please. Could I get a glass of water? What do you recommend? All those essentials.
And of course, the classic, can we get the check, please? Always important to know how to get that bill at the end of the meal.
Absolutely.
But what I really appreciate is that it doesn't just stop at giving you the phrases. It also explains some of those subtle nuances that can make a big difference in how you come across. Like, for instance, saying, "I'd like," instead of "I want."
Ah, yes, that's a great point. "I'd like" is generally considered more polite than "I want," which can sound a bit demanding in some contexts. It's all about choosing the right tone for the situation.
Exactly. It's like when you're asking for a favor, "Could you please?"
Yeah.
Sounds a lot nicer than "do this."
Yeah.
It's about showing that you're being considerate of the other person. And in many cultures, politeness is often expressed this kind of indirectness. It's fascinating how language reflects those social norms.
It is, and it's often these little things that trip people up because they might not be explicitly taught in a traditional language class, but they can make a huge difference in how your message is received, especially in a new culture.
Totally. And speaking of cultural differences, the source also points out a classic one, the difference between check in the US and bill in the UK.
Right. That's a good one to know, because using the wrong word can sometimes lead to confusion, even if the other person understands what you mean.
Exactly. Like, imagine being in London and asking for the check. The waiter might look at you a bit funny.
Yeah, they might. It's all about adapting to the local lingo.
All right, so we've looked at the phrases, we've dissected the nuances. Now it's time to see them in action. The source material includes a really helpful role-playing section, which is a fantastic way to experience how all this comes together in a real-life setting.
Right. It's all about bringing those phrases to life so you can hear them being used in a natural back-and-forth exchange. And I think this is where you, the listener, can really start to picture yourself in the situation.
Totally. It's like a little mini play in your head.
Yeah.
So the role play sets up a typical restaurant scene. We've got one person playing the waiter, the other playing the customer. And it walks you through the entire process from the moment you walk in to the moment you pay the bill.
And the dialogue is great. It uses those key phrases we've just discussed in a natural, flowing way. It starts with the waiter's greeting. "Hi, welcome to restaurant name. Can I get you something to drink?"
And the customer replies with, "Yes, I'd like an iced tea, please." It's simple, it's polite, and it's exactly how you hear it in a real restaurant.
Exactly. And then the waiter follows up with, "Great choice. And what would you like to eat?" prompting the customer to place their food order.
And the customer, smoothly and confidently, says, "I'll have the grilled salmon with a side of vegetables." It sounds so effortless, right?
Right.
And the dialogue even includes those little extras that make it sound more authentic, like the waiter asking, "Perfect, would you like dessert?" after the main course has been ordered.
Yeah, that's a classic. And the customer politely declines with, "Not today, thanks. Just the check, please." It shows you how to wrap up the interaction smoothly.
It's all there. It's like a little blueprint for how to handle yourself in a restaurant without any awkward fumbling or confusion.
Absolutely. And what's brilliant is that the source encourages you to not just listen passively, but to actively imagine yourself in that situation, even saying the phrases out loud as if you were really there.
That's key,
Yeah.
right? It's about taking that leap from understanding to actually speaking. And trust me, even if you feel a little silly talking to yourself, it makes a huge difference. It's all about building that muscle memory.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay, so we've explored the conversation, we've broken down the phrases, we've seen them in action. Now, are you ready for the really fun part?
Yeah, I know I am.
Okay, good. This is where you, the listener, get to take center stage. Our source material has a fantastic interactive section designed to get you practicing immediately. No more just listening and observing. It's time to put those skills to the test.
This is where the learning truly sticks. The source asks you some really engaging questions, like, what's your favorite food to order at a restaurant? And then it goes a step further and encourages you to actually say out loud, in English, how you would order it. It's like, okay, you've seen how it's done, now it's your turn.
Love it. It's a little challenge, a little push to step outside your comfort zone and put those newly acquired phrases to work. And there's even a mini scenario to help you along.
Oh yeah, tell us about it.
Okay, so imagine this.
Yeah.
You're at a cafe. You're craving a cappuccino. How do you order it in English?
The source sets it all up for you. It says, imagine you're at a cafe. Try saying, "Can I get a cappuccino, please?" And then it does something really smart. It pauses for a few seconds.
Right. That pause is brilliant. It gives you that little window to actually say the phrase out loud, to try it on for size. No pressure, no one's listening. It's just you and your inner English speaker.
Exactly. It's that little nudge to actually produce the language, to feel it in your mouth, to hear it coming out of your own voice.
And for those of you who are watching us on YouTube, the source encourages you to share your answers in the comments. Let's see how many different ways you can order a cappuccino.
Yeah, let's see. And for those who are listening on audio platforms, why not try saying it out loud right now? Just go for it. Don't worry about making mistakes. It's all part of the process. The more you practice, the easier it gets.
So true. Mistakes are just stepping stones on the path to fluency. All right, so we're nearing the end of our deep dive, but before we wrap up, the source gives us a really helpful recap of those key phrases for ordering food. They're the bread and butter of this whole interaction, so it's worth repeating them one more time.
Absolutely. Here they are, your essential toolkit. I'd like, oh, could I get? Oh, what do you recommend? And of course, can I get the check, please? These are your go-to phrases for navigating any restaurant scenario.
Commit them to memory, folks. And the source's advice to actually practice them the next time you're eating out is gold. It's the best way to solidify your learning and build that real-world confidence. So next time you're at a restaurant, take a deep breath and just try using these phrases.
You might feel a little nervous at first, but each time you use them, it gets easier. It becomes more natural, more automatic. It's like anything else. The more you practice, the more fluent you become.
Couldn't have said it better myself. All right, so if you enjoyed this deep dive, and we really hope you did, please give us a like, subscribe to our channel, and share this with your fellow English learners. We're all in this together.
Absolutely. And if you have any thoughts or suggestions, we'd love to hear them in the comments. Tell us about your favorite restaurants, the dishes you love to order, or any other situations you'd like us to cover in future deep dives.
We're always looking for new ways to help you guys master this amazing language. So keep practicing, keep exploring, and remember, every effort you make, no matter how small, brings you one step closer to fluency.
Exactly. And here's one last thought to chew on as we wrap up. Think about how learning even just a few basic phrases for everyday situations, like ordering food, can significantly boost your confidence when interacting with English speakers. It opens up a whole new world of communication.
And it makes those interactions more enjoyable too. It's about feeling comfortable, being yourself, and expressing yourself with ease. All right, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
See you next time.
Until then, keep those English conversations flowing.
Bye for now.